people's opinion will be the death of you if you listen.
Who told you or made you feel like it was not okay to cry? What has happened to where you felt as if you needed to hold back tears when they just wanted to come out? I'm here to discuss the importance of that, or just to be vulnerable enough to express my actions and my coming with when it comes to crying. For a long time, I've been in a state to where I felt like I couldn't cry. And that kind of put me in a place to where it was like serious situations came and I still couldn't cry no matter how much I wanted to or how much I felt that I needed to. I just couldn't. And I realized how much built up inside of me and how much crying actually helps you release certain emotions and feelings and things of that nature. So I'm kind of here to tell you, let it out. It's okay to cry, especially as men. And I know I keep saying as men, but just me being a man, I feel more vulnerable to speak to a man from a man's perspective because I kind of can't speak on a woman's perspective because I'm not a woman. But I know that women can still listen to this and take something from this. So I'm speaking to people as a collective. And back on track, I felt for a while like I couldn't cry. And I just thought crying mean, oh, if you're crying, you're weak. Or for a while, like, even my family members with the family that I have growing up now, if you're a guy or if you're a male and you crying, they say, what are you crying for? Stop crying. Boys don't cry. And it's like this false narrative of what crying is like and what it should be. Women aren't the only ones that cry. Women aren't the only ones that should be able to cry. And I feel like the narrative that we paint on men, it makes them hard to be vulnerable. And crying is something that I felt in my most vulnerable state that I've done around people, and it just made me feel so weak until I learned that crying is a way to be vulnerable. If you're vulnerable enough to cry around someone, I feel like that's a state of trust. And I've come to a realization that if I feel like I need to cry, I will do so. If I feel like my emotions are building up and I need to release, I'll do so. If that involves crying or whatever the case may be, no matter who's around. And I've touched deep into myself to where I feel vulnerable enough to do so despite who's around or the situation. Um, and it's just a lot of don't let people see you this way, or don't let people see you down, or don't let people feel comfortable enough to see you vulnerable. But I feel like being vulnerable is me complete. Complete me is vulnerable. And it's just, I just don't like the narrative of don't cry, don't let people see you cry, because it is okay to cry. It is okay to be emotionally unstable to where you need to release. And I feel like crying does that. There's plenty of times where I've been in a situation or I've been down bad emotionally and I cried, and after I cried I gotta wipe my tears and began to go on about my day, because I realized if I'm vulnerable enough to cry about this, that's the best thing that I can do right now. And I've done that, so now it is time to pick up where I left off and continue to move forward. Again, it's like sometimes you have to do certain things to release your emotions. And crying is one of the biggest ways to release your emotions state. So once again, like I said with my channel, I'm going to continue to be vulnerable. I'm going to continue to touch on topics that brings out vulnerability, because that's what I struggle with, or what I have been struggling with, vulnerability. And this is something that I'm trying to overcome. So when I'm making these videos, I'm not just talking to you all, I'm also focusing on a part of my life and growing, challenging myself to do things that are uncomfortable so that I can become the person that God has called me to be. And that's what I'm here to do. So once again, if you feel that you're in a state to where you need to cry, do so. Man, woman, father, daughter, son, grandparent, cry. It is okay to do so. But before you leave, I just want to leave you with this.